Okay, we're going.
Thank you very much. Let's call to order this regular meeting of the Peabody Public Library Board of Trustees for October 9th, 2022. You will note that there is a quorum. It appears that the only trustee who is missing is Chris Bechtold. And I would ask, we have minutes attached and distributed. I would ask if a member of the board feels comfortable making a motion regarding those minutes. Would entertain a motion to approve for a minute.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Laura moves to approve the minutes.
Carmen will second.
Howard seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes of the October 12th, 2022 regular meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Then we have to go to director's report, but I guess it says guest speaker first. Actually, it said that even before minutes. I'm sorry, I jumped. Not obeying the agenda. Sorry about that, Dave.
You have such a mind of your own.
David, you are here and it says positive pay, so
Yes.
what are you going to say?
I'll just kind of explain the program. Positive pay, I guess let me take a step back from that. You know, fraud is still, every time that we add conveniences to our lives, we add opportunities for fraud. And so, I mean, that goes back, clear back to the time that we added checks. Checks were a great invention, and then people figured out how to perpetrate fraud with them. And that continues in many other ways. And so I wish there was one silver bullet where you could say, okay, you do this and you won't have any problem. And there isn't. And so what we recommend as it relates to your bank accounts is that you put in layers of protection. And so one of those layers of protection that you can do is positive pay. There are two aspects of positive pay. There's positive pay check, and then there's positive pay ACH. Let's start with positive pay check. So what happens is, you know, there are many ways that people can, again, perpetrate fraud on an account with checks. One of them would be to just create checks that are fraudulent. They may or may not look like your checks. People are concerned about, well, you know, people don't like electronic transactions because, you know, like, well, I'm putting out my account number and the bank routing number and all that information. Well, when you write a check, you give what your check stock looks like, you give your account number, your routing number, and a specimen signature. So you're actually sending more information out that way. And check fraud still remains the greatest, you know, as it relates to bank fraud, there's more check fraud than any other. So what positive pay does is every time you cut checks, which I don't know how often, typically
Once a month.
Once a month you cut checks. What you do is you take your accounting software and say, okay, here are the checks that we wrote, and you download that into a file, which is typically a very easy process. What do you use? What system is it?
You mean our ACH? I couldn't answer that.
Well, it doesn't really matter. Your accounting system.
Oh, that's ABC technology.
I've never run into one where it was a hassle to create this very simple file. You send it to us. So we know the date, the check number, the amount, and the payee, which is really important. And another form of fraud that you see is, and I've had two instances of this just within the last 120 days, where they will get a check in. What they refer to it as washing the check. They'll actually chemically remove the name from it without damaging the check at all, and then put a different name in it, and either take it in and cash it or run it through an account. And it looks right. You know, another thing that we recommend is daily recon. You should go in and look at your account every day. You know, almost everything that happens can be fixed the same day. The next day is questionable. The day after that, it gets really ugly. So, but if you're not going in and actually pulling up each check and looking at the image of the check to see that the right name is on there, you could miss that payee piece. The loss, that's a little over 16,000 that these two organizations lost just with those two checks. One of them was one that was run through their account. Both keep fairly large balances, just as the library does. One of them check ran through, the other one was a fairly small check. The person came in, they had ID, they had everything, the check was made out to them, and they cashed the check. It was supposed to be made out to Sherwin-Williams. It was originally made out to Sherwin-Williams. So it covers all of those pieces. Now what happens is, let's see if a check comes through that something doesn't fit. Payee isn't right, the amount isn't right, whatever it is. And so the system will look and match all those up. If anything isn't right, it'll reject it, and it will shoot the team here an email that says, hey, we've got this check, here it is, do you want us to pay it or not? Because sometimes, and I don't know if it ever happens with you, but in a lot of companies, a lot of organizations, you write a one-off check. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, we need to pay this person. You write a one-off check. The worst ones are where they actually handwrite it, you know. But even if you run it through the system, you forget to upload that one check, it's gonna, so you go in there, oh, wait a minute, we forgot to enter this one, yes, or in the cases that I referenced, it would have said no. Or, you know, even if they go in to cash it at the teller line, it'll pick that up and they'll say, no, something's not right. Actually, what really happens is you try to delay them until you get the police there. But so you're taking a major step there to avoid check fraud. And I would tell you, you know, if you're following the process and something, you know, you can never guarantee 100% that something couldn't happen where a check would slip through. But if it does, then that's on us. Well, you've removed that liability. If you don't respond by 11 o'clock that day, I'll give you the short version of the process. If you don't respond by 11 o'clock that day, the check is returned. Okay? If you don't respond around 11 o'clock that day, the check people processing those call me and says, Dave, or try to call you, and that says, Dave, we can't get a hold of them. What do we do? And then, and especially, you know, especially when you just don't want checks returned on their accounts. Never had a problem with one being returned on any of my clients, but it could happen. Better to have a $1,500 check to whoever returned and say, hey, I'm sorry, than have a $16,000 check go through and you're on $16,000. The other side of that is, well, before I move on to ACH, questions about the check side?
Dave, is there a cost that's involved with this?
Yes.
Okay. And here is my problem, my concern. For negotiable instruments, I've heard, the bank cashes a $16,000 check. They've got the ID and everything. It's their responsibility to go back and chase down the person they need the money to.
If another bank cashes it and it tries to come through your account, we can return it.
Right.
If they come to us and we cash it, then no. And I would tell you too,
Why is that not the bank's problem as the person who is authorizing that and ensuring that they are giving the money to the right person by checking their ID? They are payer in due course. Again, this is 30 years old, maybe the law has changed.
we have taken all the steps. And let's take the other case, the largest loss that I had, where it ran through, they didn't catch it. If you're a consumer, okay, if you're a consumer, an individual, if you notice that, oh my goodness, this check came through on my account, you have 60 days to contact us, okay? If you are a business, I don't remember exactly, but it's a couple of days, okay? And if it's all, and I would tell you that comes through, you have a very short period of window to get it back. We just had one happen last week. Actually, we're able to pull the funds back because the money was still in the account. We can try to go get it, But after a certain amount of time, which is very short, because you're a business, because you should be financially savvy, you should see that in your account immediately. And that's the way they look at it. And there are various.
And it still bothers me. You got an ID from this person and cashed this check. Were they able to then track that person down since they got the IDs?
Well, they've actually perpetrated fraud across Fort Wayne in general.
So
The pictures
it's
out there are, all of our people have their picture, and the names that they've used, that sort of. Now, I will tell you, our process as it relates to cashing a check, we will not cash a check over $1,000 without reaching out to the client and saying, should we cash this check? And there are, and I don't want to get too deep into the nuances, there are cases where we could be responsible for it, okay? And if it's over $1,000, we are responsible if it's fraud, because we've guaranteed that we will do that. But the reality is, yes, there is potential liability. And again, I've had 2 clients, it was about $16,500 that's been lost. I got another client a couple of years ago, the check was washed, it was almost a month before the month, because it was for the right amount. It was just cashed by another company, funds have been gone for a month, $25,000. So I guarantee you there's liability.
Well, I understand there's liability. My question is, why would the liability not be with whoever honored the check that was not the right check, as opposed to the person who did nothing wrong whatsoever and sent the check out? In other words, if Joe Schmo and somebody marks out a check to Sherman-Williams and then they put it in their own account, why isn't it the responsibility of the bank that gave them money or credited their account?
It could be.
And again, that's
It
for
would
the
be.
negotiable instruments, that's for UCC.
It would be if you returned that check, if we had the opportunity to return it and get that money back. You have a very limited amount of time
How
to
do
do
you know
that.
how much time it is?
I know it's not more than a
Okay.
couple of days.
Okay.
I know it's not more than
Okay, so it sounds like they've.
And again, it's because on a consumer, it's very different than it is on a business. And again, the reason is because the businesses are assumed, courts feel businesses should be, that they have a responsibility. You can't just not look at your account and then, well, wait a minute, it wasn't my fault, bank shouldn't cash this.
Well, again, I don't think it's the courts, it sounds like it's
Well,
legislature and probably the
Yeah.
IDA influence in the legislature, but that's okay. How much does this cost, right?
$40 a month.
Okay, for both, for each, it's
40
ACH?
It is $40 a month for ACH, $40 a month for
Regular
check. But I've historically discounted that for nonprofits and municipalities. And
That was
so-
my question about checks, so if you have more about ACH or other questions, I guess that was my issue.
When we
Yeah.
get our statement at the end of the month, because that's the part that scares me, is you're looking in and you know you wrote a $16,000 check and you see a $16,000 check cleared. I mean, I can see how it's pretty easy for that to fly under the radar. When we get our statement, does it show all of the cashed checks? And so you have to go through and reconcile, and how do you,
Linda
basically they would be
reconciles.
providing that service for us, that cross-checking to make sure the payees match up.
Linda's on it, and Linda does reconcile, and then Chris Bechtel, the treasurer, has to sign off on that as well.
This would alleviate that need.
This happens
Because it
immediately.
would alleviate it would alleviate the responsibility and the liability for matching those up. You
Right.
could look at, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea to do it anyway, but if something got through where the payee was changed and it wasn't caught, that would be on
Right.
That's what you're buying. It's insurance too.
expensive insurance at $80 a month.
Well, okay, 16,000, I mean,
Oh, no, I
you know,
understand.
that's
But it's still, again, it begs the question to me, why are we even using the banks? Because this all sounds like it's for the convenience of banks. This is all computerized on your end. And other than when they're calling to cash something. But again,
well, cash is.
it strikes me whoever paid the check should be responsible for it. Whoever honored the check should be responsible. And again, this is not only that, it's when I used to work in Tellerline years ago, we were told if you pay a check, you're gonna be responsible to collect it.
I appreciate your sentiment.
Yeah.
I can tell you that's not the law.
Okay,
So,
okay.
you know,
That's okay.
It's
Scream-
just
I
simply,
can
it's
scream
just
and do
simply
it all
not
I
the
want
case.
to. Okay.
Yeah,
Did you say that you discounted from the 80?
yeah, and traditionally I've taken that down to $50 for both. So it used to be $50 each, but we recently dropped it because computerization continues to make it easier.
Other questions about the check part of it? Okay, ACH.
ACH is, if you think about it this way, this is what most people are used to with respect to ACH is, well, I've authorized my utility company to take my water bill out every month. You know, whatever it is, they're gonna take it out. And is anyone coming into the account, even like city utilities coming into the account, taking money out?
Just the state agencies.
Yeah. And so what this would do is, what it will do, it's the same, it's a different angle on the same process. Only ACHs that you've approved can come out of the account. So what would happen is, initially, as ACHs start, once we set this up, as ACHs would start to come out, or start to hit the account, we would notify you every time and say, hey, okay, we've got, you know, here's your tax payment that they want to take out. And you look at it and say, yeah, that's correct. Yes, pay it. And then it'll ask, do you want to put them on the list of the people that it's okay to take out? And you say yes. Or if you've got one where you set it up for something and it was a one-time deal, you'd say no. And so then, you know, over a period of a few months here, you're gonna get most of them are gonna come through and hit, and you're gonna say yes or no to them, and you'll get those set up, so then they just come out automatically. That's the process with ACH. Since you can't really download a file that says these are what we expect to come out, it's kind of done. Does that make sense?
Any questions for Dave? Thank you very much. That was, yes, I was one of the main people asking questions about that, and that's why.
I wish I could have given you. more
Well,
acceptable
it's not
answers,
gonna
but
make me happy,
I-
but that's okay. There's lots of things I wish we didn't have daylight savings time. You know,
I'm with you. I'm with you on that one, too.
It's just, yeah. So,
I just,
and I don't like the expression, it is what it is, but that sounds like.
well, and you know, I'm not, I continually am disgusted by the individuals perpetrating fraud
Well,
on
and
everyone.
And by the way, that's the issue. I'm not trying to excuse any of that. The bottom line is, so many legal problems you end up with. Who ends up holding the bag? Of the innocent victims, who is the one that actually ends up holding the bag? And to me, it just strikes me that the business is probably not, they were in no position to control that until it was paid. And if there's a small window, I suppose the argument is the business should know about that within a couple of days.
Yeah.
Are we at a greater risk, do you think, of, because we generate a lot of checks every month, is that who's probably at greater risk of something like that happening because of the volume of checks?
Not necessarily. You would be more susceptible to it from the standpoint that it might be more difficult to monitor them very closely. The company that that lost 16,000 recently, we had presented this to them 2 years in a row. Our responsibility is not to decide what services our clients use. It's our responsibility to make certain they're available. And they said, no, our internal processes are good. And, all of a sudden it seemed pretty cheap. We had another individual, a small company that was hacked. And so we wound up setting up new accounts for them. And there were 2 people that were actually checking the account every day to make certain what was going on. And we had fraud on the account, the new account, because they were in their system away. I mean, they figure out ways to get around things. And neither one of them checked the account that day. It was within 30 days of the fraud. It's just, these are the things that need to be done. I mean, yeah, it's.
No, that's, I
And
appreciate
it's
it.
really unfortunate. It is a drain. It is a drain on the economy, both financially and emotionally. And it's heartbreaking when you have. I mean, I can't tell someone that they can't take money out of their account when it's obvious fraud. And we have had people before, elderly, that you simply can't convince them. I've never been in this situation. I've personally never had that happen where I couldn't finally convince them. But, honestly, to create a delay, Robert and told them they needed their CD certificate just so there were a little bit more time would pass and their family time.
And that's, but
wrong.
it is just about trying to convince you.
I took up too much time.
That's okay. I am trying to move things along.
Yes.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you,
I know
David.
entitled to relax tonight.
Yes.
I want to work on that.
Yes,
Is Darla around?
Darla's not here, but I have a video, unless you want me to forego that. Although, you want me to forego it, we can do it next month.
I would like to table this decision with positive pay and show that as old business, so we can do that next month.
Okay.
And yes, if we could defer the fine-free presentation.
Okay.
I would like Chris to Mr. Bechtel, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like for him to be a part of that because he was part of the strategic plan
Right.
and that was a topic.
The
It was a
fine
great
free.
discussion.
Good.
So.
And I'm also going to ask if we could go ahead and do claims now.
Okay.
I'm just getting paranoid we're going to lose a quorum. I want to take care of
All right, I understand.
the business. So please look through your claims, and I would entertain a motion regarding the claims. I have several other action items I'm going to want to talk about quickly while we still have a quorum. So first of all, are there any questions about claims? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion. Harmon moves to approve the claims as presented. Is there a second?
Nick will second.
Nikki seconds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the claims as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Perry will send those around. I don't think I need to have board action on this. Mary did remind me in her report, so I'm kind of skipping forward, that we should have elections of officers at the December meeting. And I'm trying to ask, Mark and Carmen have already agreed. Lori, would you agree to serve on a nominating committee? Maybe you could even just talk on the phone with those two between now and the next meeting and come up
The
with.
nominating officer.
Yes, yeah, to come up with a slate of candidates. Would you mind doing that?
Yes, if we can do an email or a phone call,
Okay, would that be workable? And Carmen, would you facilitate that?
I get that.
Okay, I think you've got both of their email addresses. Now, what we'd be looking for is just a nominating slate of the officers next time. You want to email them individually and ask somebody if you want to do it the way I used to do it, just pop their name out without asking them. Just say,
Surprise!
okay.
Wait till they don't show up to the meeting.
Right. Okay. I do, however, consistent with trying to do the claims, I do want to jump down. I know I'm all over the place and I'm going to do Mary's report last. I'm sorry, Mary.
That's okay.
But I want to have, we also have attached to the package a resolution to pay bills without prior approval. I believe we did one previously and it's expired. And if you haven't had an opportunity to review that, please do that. But Mary, just go ahead and give a quick explanation as to what we're doing.
Okay, so the resolution to pay bills with prior approval happens when we don't have a quorum. We can go ahead and make our bills on time, and then what we do is approve them at the following meeting. But this allows us to go ahead and pay them so that we don't accrue extra fines for being late. Is that good?
That's good. That's exactly what I understood. I would entertain a motion regarding that resolution if the member is so inclined.
I move that we accept the resolution.
And Mark has moved to accept the resolution as presented, the resolution to pay bills without prior approval. Is there a second?
Spencer seconds.
Spencer seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the resolution to pay bills with prior approval, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Mary will send the original of that one around for signatures as well.
Carmen, you have 2 places to sign on here.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mary, on the new claim form, we only have the one to sign, right? The one page to
Yes,
sign?
it's only that one because Chris isn't here, he signs the other.
Okay, didn't we used to?
You used to sign 2, but you don't.
That's what I thought, okay. And then finally, if I understand correctly, I think that we probably also require a motion regarding a couple of other policy updates that have been presented. So I believe there's, let's go for the materiality.
Oh, the internal controls thing?
Yes,
Okay,
didn't you think?
yep.
Okay. And is materiality part of internal controls? I thought that was sort of separate.
It is a part of it. I expect you belong the same.
Okay,
folder.
so again, the internal controls, this is kind of consistent with some of the stuff that Dave is talking about here. For financial purposes, we have put these in place. I think that we require, our policy requires to get updated or reviewed every year.
Correct.
So that's what has happened. I gave it a quick look. I didn't give it a thorough look because it is just an update and it seems pretty standard. I know Mary wants to have the board formally approve the internal controls, including the materiality policy as part of that. Even without a motion, are there any questions about that or concerns about that?
Are there any changes to it from last year?
No, right.
I didn't see any, but I read that. With that, would you feel comfortable moving to approve the policy and updates as proposed?
Yes, I'll make a motion, Lori makes a motion.
Okay. Lori has moved to approve the internal controls policy and the standards and the materiality policy as part of that. Is there a second?
Mark seconds.
Mark seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the internal controls policy for 2023, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent. Okay, were those most of the action items?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to that director report. I am so sorry.
No, you're fine, perfectly fine. Luggage and station patrons, I did want to let you know that we're not going to be able to give them access to the digital.
Okay.
This is a regular library card, this is one for computer only, and it has a different number, so it wouldn't allow them to get into the digital resources.
Okay.
So,
We tried.
all right, Friends of the Books, library book sale, and you see in there they made $470.25, which is pretty decent. We did internal controls. We did have a couple issues with patrons that I wanted you to be aware of. And then I wanted to remind you of the pre-employment background check and drug test for the new ED. Staff Recognition Day is Monday, December 19th at 8 o'clock. Kitchen and Company will be providing a cafeteria-style breakfast. As always, if anybody wants to come and help
I put it
distribute.
on my calendar already.
Okay, we appreciate it, and they appreciate it too. We always have a lot of fun with you guys, so. And then, just a reminder about the officers. I think that's all I have,
That wasn't too bad at all.
so.
Okay. I think I would,
Can I tell you two things real quick?
well, yes.
Okay. I gave Don Langlow approval to go ahead and come on our easement. He has to cut some trees down for the AEP thing. I didn't think you guys would mind. So I did do that. We got a check from Bones Theater for $152. They had us as one of their concession nonprofit. So, and I thought that was really nice. So I wanted to let you know about that. And then we had a baby book challenge. Some of the people.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, we did talk about that.
We're going to talk, the Collection Development Committee will talk about it on Monday, but I wanted you to be aware. And I guess that's it.
That would not have been the book that I would have expected as a challenge.
What book is that?
Go ahead and take a peek, Spencer. You see.
I have kids, I'm deeply
See
offended.
what you see how offensive you think that is. And like I say, I think the term snowflake I know gets usually used toward people on the left, but I think sometimes that's the applicant who's on the right.
So this is a book that's being challenged?
Yes.
Yes.
And we have a book review committee
Yes.
for that?
Yes.
Yes, the Collection Development Committee does.
Okay.
And it would eventually, I think it could be appealed to us.
Yeah, it eventually will land in Red Flag.
Okay.
If it gets,
Excellent, yes.
Okay, if
All
there's
right.
nothing else for the regular meeting, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
Just a quick question about the report. I saw there's a hacking incident. Is that all taken care of? Well, clean there? Everything's good? Okay. That was the only surprise I saw on that. But otherwise, yeah, sorry.
That's okay. That's wonderful. Anything else? Someone feel comfortable? Spencer, was that a motion to adjourn?
That was a motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. We will adjourn the regular public meeting and we will now
Thank you.
convene the executive session.
Do I turn